Hi, everybody. Welcome to the Make Life Great Again podcast, the show where we talk to guests who have made the bold move to go out of state to start a better life. And I am your host, Elizabeth Pahlavan. I'm a mom of two. I'm a wife of a law enforcement officer and an executive at a real estate firm. I'm a native Californian who wishes I could move out of state, but I am stuck here because of career obligations. And this is my co-host, Troy Zeeman, who was also a law enforcement officer, just retired, and has recently moved out of state to Montana. So welcome to our podcast.
Yes, welcome to our podcast.
Yeah.
I'm good.
Good. How's life?
How are you?
I'm good. How's life in Montana today?
Life in Montana is fantastic.
Awesome.
So I moved to Helena, Montana, which is really a small town, but it's the capital of Montana.
Okay.
But it's kind of a small town, especially when you come from the places that like Southern California, like I came from. Right. And 35,000 people in one little city is very little to the cities in California, Southern California. So yeah, it's awesome here.
Nice. So why don't we share with everyone why we're starting this podcast and what the inspiration was to start this, and talk a little bit about our friendship. So we met each other, 15 or 16 years ago?
Yes, about 15, 16 years ago.
I think it was like 2007. And I was participating in the Citizens Police Academy at the police department where you worked. And it just so happened that I was assigned to you as your ride-along buddy.
Yes.
And so you took me out on patrol and I got to ride along with you. And that was really the beginning of our long friendship. And since then, we have stayed friends. We share a lot of, I think, beliefs that are very similar, family values that are similar. And we've stayed in touch all of these years, except you have abandoned me and you've left California recently.
Yes. Around 15 years ago. That's right. And it's been a great friendship, and really all said and done, as my law enforcement career, I did 26 years in two different departments in Southern California. And I made a lot of friends, not only on the department, but through the community. And it's been a great experience for me. And because of how things developed in California and the laws changing and the political nightmare that I felt in California, I decided that, it was probably best if I left California. So it's much better here in Montana for me. It's been a great relief of non-judgmental people. And the politics here is somewhat of what the politics of old were, where we have moderates, we have extremes on both sides, but everybody can have their own opinion without being hated or judged in a way that, like the new kids nowadays say, they just unfriend you because they don't like what you say. So it's not like that here. There's much more tolerance here. There's much more acceptance of, you live the way you want to live and we'll live the way we want to live, and it's okay that we disagree.
Gotcha. That sounds wonderful. So we decided to do this podcast together because we've always had good conversations. We've always had good banter back and forth. And you and I have definitely noticed a trend of people leaving California. And they're leaving California because they want a better life. And that is sort of it helped name our podcast, the Make Life Great Again podcast. But the focus of this podcast is about people who are seeking a better life. And we felt like that was a really great topic that we'd have a lot of people to talk to. And we want to hear about the process that they went through to get from a place where they were unhappy, where they felt unfulfilled, where something just didn't feel quite right, up into the point where they made that decision to make a change, and then that whole process of making a change. So, we felt like we'd have a lot to talk about. And obviously, we're going to start today by talking about your story and your experience. And I have a ton of questions for you.
Well, I'll add on to that too. It's not just about making our lives better. There is something to say about Americans and the democracy that we live in. And what I'm trying to say is that I think you and I both agree on the fact that if I can make my home life better, my household and the street that I live on better in the ways that I can, then I can probably make my community better, the city better, the state better, which then turns into the fact that we can make the United States better. And we should be thinking about, and this is one of the things that you and I talked about in length the other day, was everyone in America should be thinking about how to better the life of their neighbor, the person next to them. One of the things that we talk about in police work a lot, in an extensive amount of time, is that I am in the car with my partner and I am supposed to die before my partner dies. That's my job. My job is to save my partner, and his job or her job is to save me. So if we're both working for each other constantly, we don't have to worry about the disagreements we have. Disagreements are just things that we can agree to disagree, but we know that each other are doing their job to protect one another. And if
Mhm.
every 340 million Americans in this country can do that, then we're going to make not only our lives better, but we're going to make everybody else's life better.
Yeah. So there's a trickle down effect. When when you're happy, when your life is good, then you can go and help other people and make their life better. So I think you and I both support people making choices that are good for them. And then that in turn will be good for their neighbor, which is good for their community, which is good for their state, which is good for their country. So
Yes, I
yeah,
agree.
yeah. All right, well, let's jump into our podcast. So one of our regular topics, as cheesy as it may seem, is of course, we're going to talk about the weather with our guests. So I am here in California where it is pretty much always the same. Today it is about 72 degrees out. Mind you, it is January 27th that we're recording this podcast. So it is about 72 degrees, warm, really no clouds in the sky. And I'm in Southern California, so that's very typical of our weather. What is it like today in Montana?
So in Montana, in Helena, Montana, I like that you specified you're in Southern California, because Southern
Yes.
California is pretty consistent with that weather. And, I mean, I grew up there too. I was born there, I was raised there, and it is a fantastic one weather year round place that you can do so much. There's so much activity there that you can do. Um, and here in Helena, it is 33 degrees today with a wind chill factor. The wind's about 10 miles an hour the last time I checked. There, it is actually clear here today and it's beautiful. I mean, it is when you don't have clouds in the sky and you have the sun beating over you and it is 35 degrees outside. Um, I don't necessarily like the wind chill because the wind chill is very chilly, but if there's no wind, you have snow on the ground, you have trees everywhere, you have lakes and rivers, and it's a beautiful scenery.
Mhm.
You don't have the things that Southern California can offer, which is all of the entrepreneurial businesses and all the people, the 400 million people that you have there. But the reality is, like, the weather here is so much different than California, and I didn't know if I was going to struggle with that weather when I moved here. But it's very, very easy actually to live in this weather. Um, we in California thought that if you moved into an area where it got -10 with a wind chill factor of -25, that you would be locked in your house and you wouldn't be able to get out, or streets would be closed and the whole city closes
You'll
down.
die. You'll die if you go out in that
Right.
kind of weather.
There's just nothing to do, right? Where we figured out that there's something to do, and there's something to do on every type of weather. And the nice thing is you have 4 seasons here,
Uh-huh.
which I didn't experience that before. So now that I'm experiencing it, it's been, so far I've been here through the summer, the fall, and now the winter, and it's been fantastic. I love the weather here.
So I have a friend who lives in Minnesota, and I went to visit her, and she's like, "Let's go hang out at the curling center. They've got a bar, they've got a restaurant." And I'm like, "A curling center, really?" And we went, and that place was hopping. It was
Hop it.
packed full of people
Yeah.
curling. and they had an awesome, like microbrew bar set up and food and everything. So that opened my eyes to see like, okay, even when it is super cold, people adapt and they find stuff to do that's indoors, that's fun. So I'm
Yes,
glad to hear that
we
that's the
joke.
case.
Yeah, we joke with our friends who are from California. We joke with them all the time and say, yeah, well, we thought we were moving to a place that was like in 1920, where they don't have all the stuff we had in California. But unfortunately, they do have all those things. So we can move anywhere. And I
Not
think that's,
everything. You guys don't have the good Mexican food that we have. I'll
oh
challenge you
no,
on that
we
one.
have a great little Mexican place here that
Mm.
actually is, reminds me of, I worked in Los Angeles and in South Central LA and in East LA, they have these taco trucks, authentic taco places that these people came from Mexico. They know how to cook Mexican food. And as officers at night, all you did was eat at those places because they were so good.
Mhm.
And there is a place here that basically took that taco truck and put it into a small business, and they're only open 4 days a week in the middle of the day, but their food is exactly like those taco trucks.
Hmm.
It is so good.
All right. All right. Well, I'll have to come and try it sometime to really make an
Okay.
assessment. Yeah. Okay, so another one of our regular topics is going to be gas prices, because obviously that greatly varies from state to state. So I've got a little chart here of gas prices. Can you see that, Troy?
Yes, I can see that.
Okay, so today in California, our average gas price is $4.63 a gallon. The other day I went and got gas for my minivan, and the pump actually shut off at $75 and my gas tank was not full for my minivan. And I just wanted to cry. So looking at Montana, it looks like you guys are around $3.39 a gallon. So more than $1 less than us.
Yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes. Now, when you went and got gas,
Uh-huh.
do you remember how much it was per gallon at the gas station you went to?
I don't even look. I don't
Okay,
even
you
want to
tried.
look. It's just so
You don't want to cry
depressing.
when you're looking.
Yeah,
So I
like you just,
typically look at the gas stations here, and I just went down to one down the road. I get my gas at, and it was 334 for 87
wow.
octane, right? 334. It's, I mean, that not much different than the average that you talked about.
Hmm.
So the difference is what I haven't really looked into is your gas prices with the taxes involved. We don't have sales tax here in Montana. And when
Uh-huh.
you take away the sales tax and the gas tax of California, our taxes our gas may be lower, but what if the crude gas is the same?
Hmm.
So we can establish that if that was a possibility, we can establish that you paying $1.50 more, $1.30 more, maybe the taxes that you're paying and not necessarily the amount of the price of gas that you have to pay.
Yeah, I think you're spot on, because this graphic that I just showed, it shows that the national average is 334. So exactly what you're saying.
Uh,
So you're right. Gas is probably 334, but we're paying over $1 in taxes, sadly.
per gallon.
Yeah. Speaking of taxes, I'm going to share my screen again. So there is going to be an initiative on the California ballot in November, called ACA 11. And basically it would provide a single payer healthcare system in the state of California. But unfortunately, that means that our state income taxes will likely double. So of course, this is not great news. I mean, as much as I want people to have healthcare, um, if my income taxes were to double in California, that is really gonna hurt. So you are
So
super
that
lucky not to have income tax in Montana.
no, we actually have income tax in
Oh, you
Montana.
do?
We don't have sales
Oh,
tax.
you don't have
Now our
sales
income
tax.
tax is
Okay.
pretty low.
Okay.
It compared to California, our income tax is extremely low compared to California. I think the top income tax bracket here, I think, is 6.9%.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
which,
Really
you
low.
know, if you're those top earners and you're getting 6.9%, but if you're not, then you're paying less, right? And in California, it was 10%, I think was the top earners there. So if that doubled, that's 20% plus your 20 to 30% of federal tax, a lot of money being
No,
taken out.
almost
Um,
50% of our income will be going to taxes.
yeah, and ACA is the American Care Act.
Ah,
So
okay.
that American ACA is the abbreviation of American Care Act, which everybody knows as Obamacare. So why are they taking more money from the taxpayers when they said back in Obama times that when President Obama was the president, he said that this wasn't going to cause taxes or medical to go up on us, but yet now we have 6 years later, 7 years later, now the taxes are going to go up on people. That I don't think that's right, but I do think that that is something that U of I have been hearing from politicians for ever since we started looking into it, which for me was 25 years ago. But the reality is that if you vote for taxes to get in, and they say it's a temporary tax, that a tax will never be taken back.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, it's exactly what everybody tells us, and we just keep forgetting about it as voters. We continue to forget about that side.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's kind of hard to undo those programs once you get them going. It's like people start to rely on them and depend on them, and then to take that away is pretty much impossible. So, yeah.
Right. I agree.
All right. Well, now that we've kind of talked about, just what's going on in our life, let's get down into the nitty gritty and talk a little bit more about your story. And this is what we'll be doing on a regular basis with the guests who come on our show, is we'll be talking about their transition from one state to another. So let's start off by talking about, how long did you live in California?
I lived in California for 47 years.
47 years. Okay.
Yeah.
But just from our friendship and what I know about you, you had a few like jaunts abroad, and did you ever leave the state for a long period of time, or did you just visit those places?
Yeah, a lot of visiting. I went across into Europe to play some soccer, but that was only for a few months.
Okay.
But really, I've really lived in California for my whole life. All my family is still there. All my friends are still there. You're still there. There's not a lot of people that I know or lived with that have moved out of California in that sense. But in the last couple of years, I've had a couple of friends leave California, and now my aunt is actually moving out of California. She just retired from her job, and she's leaving too. It really, California is everything that I know. I didn't really know anything else. And when I was playing soccer and moving around and doing those kind of things, I didn't stay too long, and it was all focused on soccer. It wasn't really focused on living in a location.
Gotcha. And you guys lived in Garden Grove, which is a city in Orange County. I'm going to do another screen share so that our listeners can take a look and see your previous home. And it was a great house. How long did you guys live there?
We lived there 19 years.
19 years.
19. We bought it in 2002.
Okay. So this was the house that you brought your kids home to. This was basically your family home for your whole career while you were in Southern California. And you guys lived in an awesome neighborhood.
Oh, it was great.
Very like family focused and lots of different events and stuff. So you guys definitely lived in a nice place for Southern California. And we've already talked a little bit about you being a police officer. Do you want to share any more about that, about your career in police work?
Yeah, I mean, I was a police officer in Los Angeles for 11 years, and then I worked in Newport Beach, California for 15 years, a little over 15 years. And I think it was a great career. I think that being a police officer gave me a lot of insight to a lot of things that I learned, leadership and determination. But I think the biggest thing and the most important thing in my life that police work gave me was the ability to communicate and help people out in any manner possible. Not all arrests are because we think you're a bad guy and you need to go to jail. Some arrests actually, especially in California, they have these programs that if you arrest somebody for drugs or alcohol or even theft, then they have these programs that you go into and remediate, and you come out a better person. So not officers there, people think that police officers are only out there to do one thing, and that's enforcement. They are supposed to go out there and be the heavy hand of the law and enforce the laws of the penal codes and the municipal codes and the vehicle codes. But in all essence, most of our job is actually just dealing with the public in a positive manner. And we try to keep that positive interactions going as much as we can. Just like parents, we try to help our kids grow up in life and be the best that they can. And police officers have to wear that parent hat a lot. And by doing that, there are times where bad people don't like us, and that's just the way it works. And every now and then a good person is going to see something or hear something, and they're not going to like us. And those are the things that we talk about amongst ourselves in what we call the thin blue line, right? We call that thin blue line because we're the line between good and bad. And that thin blue line, we talk about it, and we expect that officers are going to have positive contacts when those positive contacts are available. Even with bad people, you can have positive contacts with people who are doing bad things. Doesn't necessarily mean that one person who does one bad thing is a bad person, but you can still have a positive contact with them even while enforcing the law. And I think people are losing that thought process on law enforcement right now.
Yeah. I remember when I first met you for our ride along, I was waiting in the lobby of the police department, and your car pulled up in front of the police department, and you got out, and I walked towards you, and you just gave me the biggest smile. And I was just like, wait a second, aren't cops supposed to be like tough and mean and never smile? But you were like the antithesis of that. You just gave me a big smile, and you're like, hi, and introduced yourself. So I think you're one of the friendlier cops that I've met. My husband is also a cop, and I can't say that he's like super friendly to most people until he gets to know them. Then he warms up. Yeah. Okay, so you guys are living in Garden Grove. You're in a great neighborhood, family friendly. You've got a great job. What started the conversation, or what was the thought that got planted in your brain to think about leaving California? And I know you touched on that a little bit in the beginning, but try to dive into it a little bit more.
No, really, I mean, the idea was that I was supposed to retire at age 50. I'm not quite 50 yet. And we were looking at areas around the United States where my wife and I would like to retire at. And my boys are still in high school. We were supposed to stay in Southern California until they got out of high school, and then I would be retired by then, and then I would leave. And so one of the things that we started looking at are the taxes in other states. I went through all 50 states. I researched a bunch of websites about how taxes are applied in each of those states. I researched a bunch of states that have outdoorsy things, because I am a very big outdoors person. I like hiking, I like biking, I backpack, so I go out into the backwoods and spend the night. And I love the mountainous areas. One of the places I love the most about Southern California is Big Bear was there, so I would go to Big Bear as much as possible. My wife, on the other hand, she's a beach bunny, and she just wants to be on the beach all day long. So she does love the outdoors, just as long as it's water related. And so the place that we moved to has one of the longest rivers in America, which is the Missouri. And we also have a big giant lake right next to us, which gives us, her and I both, the things we wanted the most. And so we weren't looking in Helena. I actually didn't do a lot of work in Helena, research on it. I was looking in other places in Montana. And my wife found a house here and said, I think that this is a house we should buy. And we came and looked at it and bought it. And then fortunately for me, I have a great relationship with you. So I called you from Montana and said, I just bought a house. So I think you need to sell my house.
Just as a side note, like I said, I am an executive at a real estate company, but I helped you sell your house. So that's not normally my day job, but I do help special friends and family members, of course. So okay. Okay. So you guys decided you're going to Montana, you found a house. How did you notice that start to impact your relationships with your friends and family? And I know this might be tough because those people may listen to this podcast once we post it. So I'm sure you want to tread on this lightly, but maybe without naming names, how did you feel things start to change with your friends and family once you started seriously talking about leaving?
Yeah, I think that once we made the decision, we were talking about retirement a couple of years ago. So I've been looking at places for a few years, and no plans were in sight. So because there was no plans, it was easy to talk about different tax structures, different political ideologies in the 50 states, and it was also an understanding of outdoorsy versus city. Do we want property? Do we not? So that was all easy to talk about with friends and family. But when we came back and we told everybody we were actually moving, um, I think it was more of a shock than anything else. And the reactions, some of the reactions we got that were not very positive, were more on the line of how I would put it as a police officer. It was more on the line of me catching somebody in with their hand in the cookie jar, right? The first reaction is to lash out and to be aggressive, because that it hurts. It hurts when you get caught, right? So you're like, oh my gosh, I did a bad thing, and all of a sudden now you're just lashing out. And I think that some of the my friends and family did that. They sort of lashed out. They little pushed back a little, and once we had our talks and we gave our opinion of the whole thing and they gave their opinion over the whole thing, we all agreed, and some of us agreed to disagree, but the reality was we all love each other and we're all here for each other, and no matter what, we're still a family, we're still friends. And it's a great understanding now after 6 months of being here. We have great relationships now, but it's not easy picking up your roots and leaving everybody. Not emotionally for us, it was very difficult, and emotionally for the people we were leaving, it was very difficult.
Mhm. Did that make you guys doubt your decision when you started getting that feedback from your friends and your family?
As you know me very well, there's one thing I don't do. I don't doubt my decisions very often. So no, it did not cause me to feel that way, but that's because I did a lot of research. I
Mhm,
think Shannon, she didn't doubt her decision at all. So I think she just was afraid that she would lose people because of it. And
mhm,
so there was part of that stress and anxiety that she had to go through that probably wasn't something she expected.
mhm,
And so for me, um, the number one thing that I made my decision on is that Shannon wanted to go. So I went. And there was no doubt in my mind that I would go anywhere with her. And so that also translates into what she was doing, even though she had some hard times with dealing with the anxiety for relationships. She knew that she was doing the best she could for me and the family, and she believed in this decision.
mhm,
So sometimes, like we all do, even if we're starting a new business or taking a high risk at something, we have to believe in what we're going to do. If we're not going to believe in it, then it's never going to work. But
mhm.
because we believed in it so much, it's been we've had a great time here. Met a lot of friends, um, have it's beautiful here. We love it here. And that's because I think we believed in it so 100%.
Yeah, you're lucky that you guys were both on the same page at the same moment in time. Because I think that a lot of times with couples, one person may want to go, but the other wants to stay because of family obligations or friends or work or whatever. And I think for couples, it's tough when you're in that situation. So I'm happy that you guys were on the same page at the same time. So
Yeah, I
that's
mean,
good.
I agree with you. I think one of the things that we talk about in law enforcement is the same thing. If I go into a building, um, and my partner doesn't want to, he has to follow me anyway, right? It's that dedication to your partner, and it's the backing of your partner's decisions, no matter if they're good or bad, right? If you agree with them or disagree with them, you got to talk about that later. But in the moment of time when you're making that decision, it's 100% backing constantly. And Shannon grew up with me in the police department, and she knows how that mentality is. And one thing that we try to do as best as we can is, doesn't matter what the decisions are made. If somebody makes a decision, we go in. And we use the phrase, if we fall and die, then we fall and die, but we both do it together. So it's something that is, I think you're absolutely right, though. There's a lot of people in this world that don't have that same ability to have that backing of the other person.
Yeah. I'm not sure how you can convince someone else. It probably just takes time and kind of expressing your feelings. Like, I wonder how it would have been if Shannon had said, no, absolutely not, I don't want to move. Do you think you would have kept pushing for that to happen, or would you let it go?
Well, this was actually Shannon's idea at this moment in this house. If it was reversed, I think that because of my job and because of where we were, I don't think I would have tried to push her too hard on this, because the initial idea was wait till the kids are out of high school and wait till I retire.
Yeah.
And now I retired early, and I got to get another job, and the kids are still in high school, and they went to a brand new high school, which you don't usually want to move your kids from high school to high school.
Yeah, that's a terrible idea. What were you thinking?
But it worked out great. They love it. They love the new high school. They have a lot of friends. They hang out all the time. They have all the kinds of sports. So it's been a good transition for them too.
Good. Okay. Let's talk about the process of selling your house. So I know I was your realtor, so don't talk any crap on your realtor, but what was it like to sell your home? Were there emotional ties to your old home? And then buying your new home, what was that process like?
I think for me, and this is going to be a person by person perception. I'll tell you right now, for me, leaving the house and moving here, it's very easy for me to say this was a great time. We had a life here, and we're just moving on. We're starting a new life. Not everybody has those feelings. We actually went back in Christmas time and went back to the house where we sold, because the new owners called me and asked me if I wanted to come over. So we went over there, and they are doing all kinds of renovation to the house, and it looks beautiful. And yeah, I don't miss it too much, but I think that's because we're in such a great place. If we weren't in such a great place, I think I would miss it a lot more.
Yeah. Let me pull up some pictures of your new home so that we can do a little comparison. So,
I'll tell you the comparison.
Can you see the screen?
Yeah.
And I didn't pull up all the pictures of your new home. These are just a few. So you guys have a gorgeous lake view. It looks like it's from your deck. It looks like you have a couple of decks. This is one of your living room space looking out over the lake. Huge windows. You sent me a picture at Christmas time, and you had a Christmas tree that was like floor to ceiling, gigantic. Another view of the lake, and this is looking up at your house, just a huge lawn, and it looks like you have like a fire pit here. So yeah, quite different from your home and garden grove.
Yeah, the home and garden grove was 1,600 square feet, around that. And we were on a 6,500 square foot lot, about that. And this area this house we moved into is 4,300 square feet with 5 acres. Wow. So much different. And just, yeah. And the location, right? I mean, in California, you're living, 2 feet from everybody. The houses are 2 feet. Sometimes in beach cities, they're 3 inches. And the reality is here, my nearest neighbor is about 900 feet away. Wow. So it's just great. I mean, we can talk to each other. Me and the neighbors can talk. We can walk over each other's house, but there is, if I'm in the house playing a movie loud, nobody can hear me.
Nice.
So
Nice.
it's nice that way. And we live in a forest area, as you saw. There was a lot of trees there. We actually live in the outskirts of Helena National Forest, so it's kind of nice that way too.
And how far are you from town?
We're about 13 miles from town. We usually get to Costco or the gas stations, or like a Lowe's or a Home Depot or something like that. All of our grocery shopping at Winco, everything that we shop for,
Mhm.
whether it's DIY or food or gas, is about 15 minutes.
Okay.
And then the high school is 20 minutes from here.
Okay. That must be a little bit different from where you used to live. It's like if you forgot to buy something at the grocery store, it's not a problem because it's 5 minutes away. Whereas now
Right.
it's a little bit further. 15 minutes isn't bad though. That's not too bad.
Well, here's what it covers. Let's talk about Costco. Costco, where I used to live, was 2.1 miles from my house because I would run those distances.
Mhm.
And I could
Take
leave
you
my
an
house.
hour to get there, right?
Yeah, right. I would leave my house and I would park my car and get in the door in about 20 minutes. And the reality is, it's really not the traffic that was there. It's how many stoplights you have to wait at,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like for us, leaving my house and going to Costco, I go through one stoplight. Where there, I would have to go to multiple stoplights.
Yeah.
And then I had to find a parking spot in Costco where it's, there's hundreds of thousands of people, it feels like. Where here, I could park almost close to the door, get out of my car, go in and out of Costco in 15 minutes if I forgot one thing.
Wow.
I can't go in and out of Costco in Cypress in 15 minutes, even if I wanted to just return something.
Right. Even if you
So,
wanted to just get a piece of pizza, it would be like
right,
30 minutes at least.
right, at least, right,
Yeah.
and you have to wait in line to pay for it there.
Mhm.
And that's the idea behind it is, yeah, we might be miles out. Like we talk about distances here in Montana, we talk about it as mileage, not as minutes. Where in Southern California, we talk about distances as minutes, not miles.
Yeah.
Because how many minutes does it take me to get to LAX from Garden Grove? An hour and a half.
Right. It
You know, it,
depends.
yeah, it depends. But in
Yeah.
traffic, you're doing an hour and a half. That is 34 miles from that old house I lived in. I have to go to Bozeman sometimes to go to an airport, 97 miles. It takes me an hour and 20 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
So when you talk about distances here, it's the mileage, because I can cover so many more miles in the same amount of time that you can cover in your minutes.
Uh-huh.
And so it's amazing how it appears. As a Southern California person, when I talk about, we're 20 minutes from the high school, we're technically 14 miles from the high school. And people are like, holy cow, how do you get there so fast? Because our other high school was, I think, 1.8 miles from our house.
Uh-huh.
The reality is I sometimes can get there quicker than I can get to Costco, which is, a little over 2 miles. So it's
Gotcha.
incredible how you can shave time off of your life by not sitting in traffic or sitting at traffic lights.
Yeah. And that equates to a better quality of life.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. I have to do a lot of my relationship maintenance from my car because that's the only place that I have time to do that. So like
Yeah.
I always call my friends from the car. I do my video messages from the car. I try obviously not to text and drive because that's not a good idea, but yeah, so I don't know how that would be if I lived in a different state. I guess I would actually have time to talk to those people in real life versus just sending them messages from my car while I'm driving. Okay,
I agree.
so moving on. So what was it like leaving your job? And I know your situation was a little bit different because you actually retired, but clearly you had long-term relationships with people at your work, and all of a sudden those relationships stopped. You stopped seeing those people every day. So what was that like?
Yeah. So I think, I can only equate to police officers and law enforcement in the two departments I was in. And really, it's hard to leave that job. It's sort of who you are. It's sort of what you've been doing your whole life. I started when I was 21. I'm 47 now. And so basically, I was a police officer more than I wasn't in my life. It's a difficult decision to make to actually leave a job that you are so devoted to.
Mhm.
But it has been a great thing for me to start a whole new life. When we moved, we decided we're starting a whole new life. And one of those things is the jobs we're doing. My wife was a stay-at-home mom. She was a stay-at-home mom for 20 years. She decided we were leaving and got a job. And now she's a full-time. She just got a promotion. And I'm trying to find a different type of job in life. Not a law enforcement, not enforcement, not some kind of judicial thing, nothing like that. I'd like to find a job that is different. With all of my experiences and all of my knowledge that I have of people and how to deal with people and leadership and problem solving, all those things, I know that I can get a good job doing something else in a different field, just to start a new life and have a great time learning for the next 40 years. And I think that's a benefit that I have in my head, in my mentality, is everything is positive, everything looks positive, everything's going to be positive, and I'm going to be successful. I don't have to be in the same job my whole life to be successful. I can change. And leaving, if you don't have that mentality, I think leaving everything you have can be depressing and very stressful, and you're not going to find things where you go that is the same as where you're leaving.
Mhm.
And because of that, you could really fall into a state of kind of depression and anger of why I did this.
Mhm.
One of the things that I've been looking at other jobs. I will tell you right now, the jobs that I've been looking at, I would make a third of what I made when in California. A third.
Wow.
It is the job, the minimum pay here and the job average pay here is extremely low, but it's extremely low because of the cost of living here is extremely low.
Yeah.
Um, so I wouldn't tell people that they should leave anywhere without really looking into a job market before they leave, because you're going to get there and be surprised at the differences.
Uh-huh.
And one of the things that I've talked to a couple people about is, if you do your calculations and your finances on the new job, you can look at a hourly wage and say, look, I'm getting paid $15 less than I was getting paid here. But if you do all your calculations, you might come up with, really, you're only losing $2 an hour because of your cost of living.
Mhm.
Um, or maybe you're ahead of the game, even, depending on where you go. And that's the idea behind it, is don't just go in blind. Really do your research on leaving where you are, because you know everything there. It's like laws. I know all California laws. I know the municipal codes. I know vehicle codes. I know all kinds of stuff. Constitutional rights are applied everywhere, but really, where you are doing your law enforcement, the Constitution applies to that law specifically differently than other constitutions apply to different laws. Why reasonable suspicion is different than probable cause. All these things that happen in California. I came here. I don't even know if driving 4 miles an hour over the speed limit, they'll give me a ticket for. I have no idea, right? I mean,
Right.
I know nothing here. So
Yeah.
it's a complete different ideology, and you really have to do your research to be okay with learning a whole new lifestyle.
Yeah. Okay. Um, what happened with your kids? What was that process like? And let everybody know, like, your kids, how many you have and their ages.
So I have two boys. They're both in high school. One was a senior. One was going to be a senior this year. One was going to be a freshman. So my senior obviously left his old high school and came to a new high school. My freshman left all of his friends, or yeah, my freshman left all of his friends in junior high, and then is going into high school, in a brand new high school. But the good thing here is that because of the weather, the sports that they played were actually started in June of that summer before school. So we moved here in June. And the day after we moved here, they were already on their teams training with their teams for the next month and a half before school started, or 2.5 months, whatever it was. And when school started, they were able to transition into a brand new school with still a bunch of friends
Right.
because they were on a team.
Uh-huh.
And that helped out tremendously. I mean, I think that was one of the biggest pluses that we did not know we were getting into when we moved here.
Yeah. What are your kids' personalities like? Are they introverts, extroverts? Because I feel like that would make a big difference with integrating into a new school.
Yeah, I think it does. My older one is more introverted than my younger one, but I will say that even though he is more introverted, he still can make friends and talk to people and be outgoing. So both of our kids are pretty outgoing, but I don't think it really matters how outgoing you really are. If you are comfortable and you already have acquaintances and friends, then it's easier to be outgoing. If I would have walked them into school without knowing anybody in the city, I don't know if they would have been so outgoing the first week of school.
Uh-huh.
So,
You go ahead.
so I think that's important. It was very important to have them build relationships prior to actually starting school.
Okay. Did you get any pushback from them when you told them that you were moving? Was that a family discussion or was it just like, this is what we're doing?
So they were here with us when Shannon found the house.
Mhm.
So after we looked at the house, we went out to dinner and we talked in length, probably for 3 or 4 hours with all four of us. And to ask them if they wanted to move, what the benefits would be for moving, what the negatives would be for moving. And their voice was just as important as our voice. So that if they would have said, no, we ain't doing it at all, this is horrible, and no, there's no way, I don't think we would have moved. So them being a part of the decision was very important to us.
Mhm. I would imagine that would have made life really miserable if your kids didn't want to go, especially that high school age.
Yeah.
That would have
Well,
been
and
awful.
I agree with you, and we understood it. If they would have said no, I think that there was a definite valid reason why they said that.
Mhm.
But they were both, Dean was a little hesitant. He didn't want to lose his friends and stay and go to a new school his senior year, but he really wanted to get out of California. And Jake was the same way. He was more, he didn't really have any negatives. He was like, I don't want to leave my friends, but I want to move here. I'd like to move here tomorrow. And so Jake was all in. And I think Dean was the one that we talked to in length because we didn't want him to feel pressured into making a decision
Mhm.
that the three of us wanted to move and he didn't. And
Yeah.
it would have been okay if he said no, I'm not going, and we would have stayed as a
Uh-huh.
family. But he had a lot of problems emotionally in school because of the politics that were being driven by the teachers and the students at their schools. So he was looking for a school that he could um, have his own opinion without being crucified for it.
Okay.
And when you have teachers that tell you you're a horrible person, and that your dad tries to kill black people, and that he's in high school for that, it's hard for kids to deal with that kind of stuff.
Yeah. Wow. I didn't know that that was something he was facing. It's really hard. That's awful.
Well,
Oh,
it's just
okay.
one of those things that, in Southern California, California is changing politically, and they're allowing, in my opinion, they're allowing teachers to speak a rhetoric of this type of hatred and this type of ideology. And I don't think the teachers really understand what they're doing to the kids. Just telling a kid they're bad for being who they are or thinking the way they are. I don't think that's what our schools were meant for. And my older one is extremely happy now because he goes to school and he doesn't feel like he's going to be ridiculed by adults. And he feels like he can speak his ideologies. And if they disagree, they can say, okay, well, we disagree with that, but let's move on to another topic.
Mhm.
And I think that's how teachers should be. They should be in there to teach kids how to become an adult and how to deal with
Mhm.
the other adults.
Mhm.
Not all adults think like the teachers. Yeah, or well, some of the teachers in California, because not all teachers are like that, really, you know. And so, how do you teach kids to live in the adult world and be successful? You're going to run into people that have a different ideology of you, and it's okay to disagree with that. But it's also
Yeah.
okay to not judge that person to be bad just because you disagree with their ideology.
Right. Right. Totally. Okay, let's switch gears a little bit from your kids to the process of moving. So, obviously, you had to pack up 17 years of life from your house. So, what
19.
was 19, sorry. What was the moving process like? And, were
Mm.
there any surprising costs that came up? Um,
I
how
think,
did your pets do? Did it go as expected? And
yeah,
how far was the trip from Garden Grove to where you moved?
1,200 miles.
Okay.
So it is, I will tell you, we moved last year, 2021, and it was the height of moving season for California. Everybody's leaving California. That's what the movers are telling us. The
Do you feel like they
movers,
exploited that?
oh, they exploited it hugely. And not only did they exploit it, they knew they were exploiting. They even told me this is high. They've never seen prices this high to move out. But if
Wow.
you don't get it, the next person's moving out, he's going to pay it or she's going to pay it. I mean, the people were paying astronomical amounts of money to leave California.
Wow.
And we hired movers. Now,
Okay.
we looked at U-Haul or Ryder to try to rent trucks. You couldn't even rent trucks
Huh.
because most of the trucks were out of California anyway. They were all gone. And if you did find one that had a truck, it was like $5,000 or $6,000 to rent it.
Oh my gosh.
So it was
Yes.
incredible. One of the guys who lives here in Montana, his mom lived in California. He rented a U-Haul truck here for a return at the same place, drove to California, picked up his mom and her stuff, drove back $1,200.
Wow.
Just to leave California the same year was 5 to 6 thousand just for the rental.
Oh my gosh. I'm in the
It
wrong
was
business. I need to get
oh,
into the U-Haul business.
it was incredible. It's incredible. And I understand why they did it because they had no trucks in California. So, supply and demand is supply and demand. That's just the way
Right.
it works. But the reality is like it was so expensive. The biggest shock to me was how to move out of how much money it was to move out of California. That was the biggest shock. It cost us about $27,000 in the end to
Wow.
move out of California because of the things that we had and how much property we had, of course, in our house because we were living there for 19 years.
Yeah.
Um, but it was incredible the cost, and that wasn't because gas prices were high or anything. It was just because people were like, hey, if you don't pay 20,000 to move, this other guy is going to pay 20,000 to move, so we'll just go over
Wow.
there. And
Crazy.
we had 4 quotes from 4 different moving companies, and they all said the same. They were all about the same price, and they all said the same thing. This is the highest price I've ever seen, but the reality is that's what everybody's paying, so you're gonna have to pay it.
Oh my gosh. But I mean, the other side of the coin is that you guys did sell your house the market was going crazy. So like you got a higher sales price for your house than you probably would have gotten when there weren't as many people moving from California. So,
I
pros and
think
cons.
I think so, but I don't know if it's because people were moving out of California or housing prices were just high because housing prices were high here.
Mhm.
Um,
That's true.
I mean, the people that bought our house, they, as you know, they were from California.
Yeah.
Um, they didn't move into California, they didn't move out of California, and they're still paying those prices. And
Yeah.
I think it was just the market in itself. I agree with you. Um, there may have not been as many people moving out of California if the market wasn't that high. So I agree on that part where um, if the market was lower and we decided to move, maybe there wasn't so many people moving out at the same time.
Hmm.
But I also think that there's a lot to be said that um, when the governor of California decided to have a state of emergency, which is still going on now, that gave a lot of pressure to people to say, I don't want to live in an area where the governor has so much power.
Yeah.
We don't vote people into office to rule over us. We vote people into office to be a part of the community.
Hmm.
And when you're not a part of the community and all you want to do is rule, a lot of people that are going to leave.
Yeah, especially with our governor, who was unfortunately just so hypocritical in his actions during the pandemic, forcing everyone to stay at home and, hunker down while he's at French Laundry having a big unmasked party for his birthday. So, yeah, there's that.
Yes, there are those things
This
that
isn't a
absolutely.
political show, right?
No, this is not.
Okay, so speaking of COVID restrictions, what has that been like in Montana and in Helena?
They're very laxed here. And what I mean by lax, I do not mean that people are not informed. And I do not mean that some businesses require masking.
Mhm.
I mean that Montana is a state with a governor right now who says, these are the things that we recommend. These are the reasons why we recommend them for people to be safe. We believe that you should have your vaccines and you should wear a mask. If you do not, no one is going to judge you.
Mhm.
And that's the idea behind America. This is how we make our lives better so that we can make our neighbors better and our cities better. Is why are we judging everybody so much? Why is it incumbent upon me to act the way you want me to act because you want to act a certain way, right? Like
Mhm.
you want to act one way, I'm acting a different way. So you're going to judge me and try to force me to act the same way you're acting. One of the things I tell my kids is the idea behind it is if everyone thought the same, if everybody did the same, we could never progress as a species. We would never have a different thought of the next person next to us.
Mhm.
So these different thoughts and these different ideologies and the different ways that we get experiences and our own perceptions are very important to our species in itself. And so the way they do it here is much more in line with the way I believe human beings should be treated, in the sense that this is what's going to progress us to be better and better every day.
Okay. Do the boys have to wear masks at school?
No mask at school. They just started this week wearing masks because the Omicron is running rampant. And so they are forcing the kids to wear masks, or they're mandating the kids to wear masks this week. And
Uh-huh.
then they will reassess it after this week and hopefully get them taken out next week.
Gotcha.
But they
Okay.
really do look at the assessment of the numbers and assessment of the students and faculty to say, you know what, yeah, we're okay. I mean, we got here and we haven't had any restrictions on COVID that affected any daily life of ours.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, that's quite different from California, that's for sure. Um, okay, so you talked a little bit about getting educated on basic laws in your state. What has the process been like to get integrated, like getting your registration updated and your driver's license and vehicle registration and all of that? What has that process been like?
Yeah. So when I compare it to Southern California, the process here is like going into Vaughn's and getting some apples. It is incredible. The people here are so friendly.
Oh,
You just go in there, you give them your stuff. They'll tell you what to fill out. Yeah, it's like 45 minutes. It's actually,
it
I just
sounds
read it.
lovely. It sounds wonderful. Like
Oh, it's
you'd want to go back. You'd want to do it again. Be like, please.
no one
Like,
we call it the motor vehicle department instead of the DMV. We call it the MVD. And there's nobody in there arguing. There's nobody in there yelling and screaming. There's nobody sitting there for 4 hours. You can even get online and make an appointment. And when you get in there, they actually call your name. And then you get your appointment at the time you're getting it. And it's a 15-minute appointment.
wow.
So they get you in 15 minutes later, you're done, and the next person comes in. It is, but again, we have to compare it to the fact that let's talk about the city of LA. The city of LA has like 3.8 million people in
Yeah,
it,
it's a
plus an influx of
population
3
thing.
million people.
Yeah,
Right. Where here we have 35,000 people. And we don't really have a fluctuation in Helena because the cities around us are so far away. People don't commute to these cities to work.
yeah,
So you don't have that influx either. So it is, but I tell you what, the MVD is fantastic. The prices are not the price, the fees are so low. If you have a car that is over 10 years, you have a permanent plate, permanent registration. You pay one-time fee for the rest of the time you own the car.
wow, that's
So,
nice.
so we got here and we only have one car that is not 10 years old. So all of our cars, I paid one-time fees. They were all pretty cheap compared to a yearly fee in California. And I don't have to pay registration on anything again, except for one of the cars.
Wow, that is so nice.
So
Registration
the
is one
cost
of
of
those
living,
things, yeah, that always takes me by surprise. It's like you get this bill in the mail and you're like, geez, it's $300, $400 for your registration.
yeah.
To pay that only one time, that's super nice.
Yeah, and the one-time fee, like we'll talk about my Ford Expedition, the one-time fee was $273.
Wow, that's
So
amazing.
in California, the registration was more every year than the one-time fee I paid here.
Crazy.
So yeah,
So
it is.
are you guys feeling the difference financially? Speaking of cost of living, have you noticed like a big change in your budget and your finances with moving to Montana?
Yeah, I'll tell you, there's two things I noticed about this. Number one, the cost of living here is extremely cheaper, especially when you are um, financially savvy, right?
Mhm.
You really don't want to spend a lot of money. And number two is that you don't buy as much stuff here. There's not enough stores and shopping centers that
Mhm.
you can just drive by and buy things. You actually have to make a decision to go buy it.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we try to do, and me and my wife, is stay off of Amazon because it's so easy to buy off of Amazon.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we love Amazon, but we also hate Amazon a little bit. And now
Uh-huh.
that we're here, we're more financially savvy, and we're like, we don't need anything like that. So
Right.
we've saved a lot of money in the last 6 months, especially with sales tax too. I mean, when you go out to dinner and you buy a plate for $29, it's $29. It's
Right.
not $29 plus tax and hotel fees and business fees and all this other fees,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you know exactly what you're getting.
Yeah. So in California, just to educate people, our sales tax is about 8%, a little over 8%. So everything you buy, just add on almost 10% to that. So it definitely adds up.
Yeah, and it does because when you buy a big ticket item, cars or clothing,
Mhm.
purses, right? I mean, purses in Southern California are $3,000, $4,000. Some of them. You're adding 10% on that.
I'm going to have you do all my
That's a
purse
lot of money.
shopping. You're going to do all my purse shopping for me from now on. Okay, just send them to my address.
We don't have those types of purses here in Helena.
Oh, dang it. I'm sure you do. I'm sure I could find them. Me and Shannon, we could track them down. We could find some French designers in Helena.
Maybe.
Yeah. So, changing gears, how did your pets do with the transition? And what kind of pets do you have and all that good stuff?
So when we moved, we actually had, I mean, when we were living in California, we had 3 dogs, a cat, and 3 chickens, because we love fresh eggs. And now, by the time we moved, we had 1 dog and 1 cat because we gave the chickens away. Chickens are not good for transportation, moving like that. They could actually stress and die. So we gave the chickens away to people who would take care of them, and we will gather new chickens here. But when we got here, we had 1 dog and 1 cat, and our dog was a pug. So, the eagles here will eat a pug. So I had to buy a bigger dog. So I bought a dog while from Chicago, and had that dog flown out here to our house in Helena. And
Okay.
So now we only have 2 dogs and a cat right now.
Gotcha. But the move with the single dog and the cat went okay.
Oh yeah, the dog slept in the car for 1,200 miles. The cat, we thought the cat was going to cry a lot more in the carrier, but what we did was we got an oversized carrier, like for a big dog,
Okay.
and we put the cat litter in the carrier
Oh,
with the
smart.
cat bed
Uh-huh.
and the cat. And so because of that, we started having, the cat didn't cry as much. It felt like it was okay in there.
Right. You made a little home for it.
Yeah. So
Right.
we kind of were able to do that, and the cat actually had a very good move. And then it took about 2 weeks for the cat to get comfortable being here in this house.
Yeah. Yeah. Gotcha. And is she indoor or indoor outdoor?
She's indoor outdoor.
Okay. Okay. You don't worry about the eagles with her?
No, you know what we do? I mean, there are other predators here that eat cats, but she doesn't go too far when she goes out. And usually if she goes out into the yard, we let the dogs out with her.
Okay. Gotcha.
So far we've been pretty good. At night we call her, we make sure she's in at night, and yeah, so far we've had no problems.
Okay.
Now that it's winter and it's snowing outside, she does not go outside. She looks at the door and says, no, thank you.
Yeah. Smart. Cats are smart. Okay, so if you had to say one thing that's like the best part of living in Helena, what would you say?
The friends here. We've
Okay.
made some great friends, and the people here are just so hospitable and nice.
Nice. Okay, what about the worst part?
The works,
The worst.
the worst part. I don't think I have a worst part yet. I
What?
think everything's been so great here that there has been, even like the pay, the pay that an average person in a middle class job would make is much lower than California, but it's okay because that your cost of living here is so low. So it's not really a negative.
Yeah.
Food here is good. You don't have as many choices here in food that you do in California, especially Southern California. And then there are some restaurants that are really, really good, but I don't think anything can really match some of the really, really good restaurants in Southern California.
You have amazing
Very
food.
difficult.
That's one of the
Oh yeah.
hardest things for me and my husband is finding a place that has similar food. Because our rule of thumb is we basically eat out at restaurants that we can't cook at home, like sushi or Vietnamese food, or like the really good Mexican food. Like we can't make that stuff at home as good as we could
Yeah.
get it out. So to find
Right.
a place that has that kind of food culture, but is still offering like a rural landscape, it's been really hard. We haven't found that spot yet.
I don't think you're going to find one of those. You would have to go to a similar place like Southern California
No, I'm
to
gonna
have
find
that
that.
variety.
I'm gonna find that unicorn.
All right.
Giving up yet.
Hey, I can't wait till you find it and let me know about it, because I'll come visit and eat some food, but I'm not moving from
Maybe,
Hill.
maybe on this podcast when we're talking to people, we'll find that spot. So
Okay.
do you think that there's any reason why you'd ever return to California, move back?
No, no
No.
reason at all. The only thing that would happen with us is we have friends and family there, and if they need us for anything, we will go there and be with them until we're not needed anymore. Then we'll come back, but we're never going to move out of here.
Do you think that you guys will always stay in Helena, or are you interested in exploring other parts of Montana or other states?
We will always stay here. But that does not mean that once we are all, Shannon and I are completely done with working and only retired, we're planning on going and seeing all of the 50 states and all the national parks. And we have people all around the United States. The great thing about Montana is we're so close to Canada. Neither one of us have really been and explored Canada. So we're going to go across the border, and it's a very easy drive from here to get to the border. It's like 4 hours, and it's going to, the people here in Helena, they tell us some of the cities or provinces in Canada are just fantastic. So we can't wait to go and visit those.
Yeah, Canada looks beautiful. I've never been either, but really want to go.
Yeah.
So you'll have to tell me all about it once you go.
Yes.
All right. Well, we have been talking for quite a while now, so I think that this we may want to wrap up our first inaugural podcast. So,
All right.
thank you, of course, for being our first guest on our show. But we are going to be looking for guests who have moved from one state to another to share their experience with us. So if you're interested in being on the podcast, you can email us at makelifegreatagainpodcast@gmail.com, longest email ever. And I guess that's it for our first podcast. Thanks for being here and thanks for podcasting with me. And I guess we'll talk again soon.
All right. Thank
All
you.
right. Thanks. Talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.